Who loves you, baby? That's right. It's Slick Nick, the living legend of hair loss, your personal hairline hero. I rule you because you choose to live in the kingdom of hair loss. So while you're here, I will be your generous and kind and caring guide. So I received a comment today in my real time of someone saying, and I appreciate the vulnerability here. They said, Nick, post-COVID, being in college during a time like that, I really feel like I missed out on some opportunities to really develop my social skills, ultimately, to be part of a community. And in case you haven't noticed, that's what this channel largely is about. Show up for the hair loss, stay for the community. Stay for the emotional intelligence, stay for the tips on how to actually be attractive beyond something as superficial as whether you have hair or not. So I think that's a very good question, and I'm very eager to go ahead and throw you some tips. I'm going to brainwash you, as I always do. I want to remind everybody, the real reason you're worried about hair loss is because ultimately you haven't figured out the 10 things that makes you attractive to other people. And if you disagree with me, it's okay. But if you disagree with me, it just shows that you're not at a place of maturity yet to understand how the world actually works. I am 42. That means I have a lot more life experience. So keep in mind, what makes you attractive to other people actually is, are you direct? Are you respectful? Are you emotionally intelligent? Are you a good communicator? Are you healthy / fit / well-dressed? Do you know who you are? Have you found your identity and your unique skill set, meaning you know what you're good at and you're bad at? Are you a leader? Are you confident? Are you funny, meaning you can make fun of yourself for the things you're not good at? That's the best way to be funny. And are you committed? Those are the things that make you attractive. Now, as far as tips to basically improve your social situation, well, aside from the obvious, you focus on those 10 things. And if you can't be those 10 things, pretend to be those 10 things. Because a lot of times people cannot tell the difference whether you're faking or not. Believe me, fake it till you make it is what I'm all about. Have I ever struggled with confidence? I'm gonna say no. But ultimately, I never thought about, am I a confident person? I just thought, I'm just gonna pretend to be the thing that I'm supposed to be, and let's see if people fall for it. And they always do. So is that confidence? Is it not confidence? I don't know. But I know that if I pretend to be the thing people want, and that they would see as attractive and useful, then ultimately the results are the same. So if you can't be those 10 things, practice on them and pretend. Practice and pretend would ultimately be it. Now, I'm going to speak for me personally as far as my social situations, because it definitely is very important. It's easier for men to be lonely than it is women, is what I believe, because by default, men tend to be more independent minded in general and think, well, I don't need friends. I don't need a group to belong. But we do. So just off the top of my head, here's some groups that I belong to. So you probably all know, I go to the gym 6 days a week at the same time every morning, like 6 a.m. So I see the same guys there, and I make a point to talk to them when I see them. And even if it's just a short little conversation, I make a point to have a conversation with them. And every time you make a point to have a conversation with someone, that's one more way that you are going to work on your social skills. And ultimately, you always want to make it about that other person, not about yourself. And I say, ask a specific question or say something specific to that person. Instead of something like, hey, how are you doing today? Say the person's name. Hey, David. Hey, what'd you do this weekend? Anything interesting? At least that's better than how are you doing, because you're trying to find out if anything different or unique happened, because that's ultimately what makes conversations interesting, is when we extract what's unique about that person's life at that moment or recently or tomorrow, whatever. So having those conversations with people at the gym, and of course you should be at the gym anyway, according to my 10 rules, right? So it's important to go there. It's good for your mental health and your physical health. So another place that I belong to is I go to church. So, you may be a different religion. You may go to a temple or a synagogue, whatever it is. But the fact I belong to a religious community, which is based on hope and it's based on faith. It's a very encouraging environment, and there is strength that you get within when you choose to be a part of a group like that believes in something bigger than we can all see here. So I belong to a church So I go there on Sunday, and then also I volunteer. I do security on Wednesday nights. So they have like a couple hundred people there for, this big thing there. And yeah, I do security, which also means that I meet a lot of people along the way and that I see each time and I talk to. So through my church and through my gym specifically are ways that I have worked in my community. Now, I would say too, even just when I'm at the store, I will talk to people at the checkout and I'll say something like this: hey, has anybody been rude to you today? Or has everybody been nice to you? I just say something like that. And it's funny how that little question can turn into a conversation. Same thing if you're going to get coffee somewhere. Say that to a barista. Imagine how entitled and rude and self-centered people are who pay $6 for coffee are. You get enough people in, somebody's gonna be rude to that 16-year-old kid. So that's why I would say, has everybody been nice to you today? I hope so. And I had that conversation with them. Practicing having conversations with people is a big deal because a lot of times it's like getting something in the mail. Do you want something in the mail other than a bill? Yeah, you do. You would love to get a handwritten card or letter. You would love that. Well, are you sending any out into the universe? Well, you can. You can be the one to initiate those conversations. Now, with that being said, there are plenty of people who don't want you to conversate with them. They want to be left alone. And that's totally okay. But what I teach is you become a more confident person the more that you're rejected. Now, my career is actually in sales and HR, which actually involves a lot of rejection and me having to reject other people. But it ultimately builds confidence when you're able to do that and experience that. So I feel like ultimately it's a matter of finding out what can your communities look like. It's for me, the obvious thing is to go to the gym and then to belong to a church or some kind of faith community or something even like that. Even, Nick, I'm not a religious person, never will be. Okay, then what would be the equivalent to that? Because I recognize that when people go to church or a religious group, ultimately it's like-minded people, they think alike, and they find some sense of optimism in that. It's like a hobby. I also go to a men's group that is part of my church as well. But any kind of hobby that, whatever the thing that you're kind of nerdy about, that you know more about than most people. Like, for example, you all know that I am having this book published about Enneagram. I've authored my first book here. Well, one Saturday morning last year as I was writing the book, I held a free sit-down session with anybody who wanted to meet me at the local coffee shop, and I would help them understand what their personality type was and what that meant. I even worked with a married couple to help them understand how they operate even better. So I found ways to actually host that event. But ultimately, the saying, be the change you wish to see in the world. Well, if you want to be part of a social group, what if you're the one that actually initiates that? Even if you feel like you don't have the best social skills, the more that you practice them, the more confident that you will actually become. That was a good question. I appreciate you leaving a comment. Any other comments? Belong right here.